Hey, what is up, guys, and welcome to the TheSTiKSLive. Joel is apparently standing very, very straight, as always, in his suit. Smart and formal as we're just here in hoodies and scruffy. But yeah, as per usual, it's me and Tommy, two hosts of the show. But this time we're actually joined by two guests instead of one, so that means double the trouble, so to speak. And, of course, two faces which don't really need introduction, because they've been on the show many times before. MarkyB and then Joel. So both of you go say hi and say a little bit about yourself.
You first, Joel. I mean, ladies first and all that.
The first guest of the show wants to let you go first.
Yeah. I'll kick off. I like that you said I'm the only one who made an effort, despite the fact Marky took 20 minutes getting ready.
That's true.
But my name's Joel. I'm the managing director of XL Esports. For those of you who don't know, like I said, I've been on the show a couple of times. I'm pleased to be back.
And I am MarkyB Bryceland. For those who don't know, I play for Epsilon. Been in a couple of teams. Like most of it, you'll know me from TCM, but now obviously I'm on Epsilon, which is a bit of a change. And things have changed since then. But now I'm playing COD for Epsilon Esports.
I still can't get that in my head. Like, I don't know what it is, but Epsilon MarkyB just doesn't sit well in my brain.
It's got to be TCM MarkyB. That's where it lies.
I know. It's horrible. I don't get it. But guys, if you want to get your hands on some scuffs and some gamma, why don't you use the codes down below? STiKS for 10% off your G Fuel and 5% off your scuff. So go use them now. They're great products. And we're going to be talking about the show. Gfinity League is kind of going to be the main focus. We're going to be going on to that first. And we're going to talk about the 100k what was announced. And then I believe we're going to go to the EGO kind of tournament and then pull out these questions from Twitter. So sit back, relax, get a cup of tea, and let's go. So the Gfinity League was kind of an... you see Marky, there is tea.
Tea. Nice cup of tea.
But yeah, it's about the Gfinity League. It was kind of like announced a while ago. It was a long awaited. I'm sure MarkyB probably knew about it months and months.
I didn't.
You didn't?
That's a lie. I didn't actually.
Usually, like the pro players are the first people to know.
No, actually, we actually all found out at Gfinity Masters as Gfinity are actually pretty good at keeping secrets. Like they let everyone know. Yeah, they let everyone know literally at Gfinity Masters when they originally announced it, so everyone knew at the exact same time. So yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good because like I know on
not lying
or whatever, like it kind of all leaks through, as in the pro players find out first, and they tell their mates, and they tell their mates, and so on and so forth. But yeah, for those who don't really know, the Gfinity Pro League is going to be consisting of divisions, kind of like football, soccer to some.
No.
This is
Alex doesn't know what he's on about.
It is football.
Why would you even say that? When they talk about it on the NA show,
the chat's going to spend the next 45 minutes moaning about whether it's football or soccer. At least I've got it out there. But it's kind of like that, isn't it? You're going to have premierships, championships, Division 1, Division 2, and so on and so forth. Premiership's going to be kind of where the limelight's on. That's where all the pro teams are going to be coming in, such as MarkyB. I believe there's going to be 8 teams in it. I see Marky now. Yeah, he's very happy about that news. And yeah, by the sounds of things, Marky, you probably know a little bit more about this because you're actually playing in it. But from what I'm aware, there's 8 teams from across Europe. Obviously, the top caliber, what's left in Europe anyway. And we're going to kind of like be battling off together for quite a healthy amount of prize pool. I think there's roughly around 12k or something up for grabs. I think Premiership, the first team gets 7k. So it's a nice little bit of funds. But more importantly, I'm sure you're more focused on it. I'm not really sure what Mikey's doing.
I don't know. I'm really excited today. I don't know why. I have no idea what's going to me.
I believe the top 4 teams in the league actually qualify into the 100k we're going to be talking about later on. But first question going across to everybody. What's your initial thoughts and impressions of the league? We'll go Tommy, Marky, and then Joel. Off you go.
Go to me last.
Joel, Marky, Tommy. Off you go.
Initial impressions, very good. I was a little disappointed that the way that obviously only 2 teams could actually make it through from the qualifiers. But actually, when you look at the invites, they all make sense. They are probably the top teams in Europe. Obviously, it's sometimes hard to compare across nations because they don't play each other all that often. And when they do, it's online and it's pretty much a case of host advantage. So it can sometimes be difficult to see where they fit in. But I didn't really have any complaints about the invites. The league, I mean, Gfinity, everything they do is to a really high standard. So we know that the league, the production for it is going to be excellent. I just hope that for me, I just hope that the championship kind of keeps up in a way. Like, I hope that there's, it gets enough of an audience for it to carry on beyond the first season.
Yeah.
Marky?
Well, I'm really excited for obviously competing in it. I believe we've needed something like this for a long time. We've been basically playing for the last year or so, just playing in the online tournaments and like hardly scrimming, and I feel like the tournaments aren't like great practice in terms of allowing you to be able to judge who's like at the top level at a certain time, because it all comes down to like brackets and things like that, and sometimes you go through a whole night of playing like an easy bracket and then you'll play like one good team in the final. It's just like waste a whole night. Whereas the Gfinity leagues allow just, as I guess, better practice for EU teams and more consistent practice against like teams that maybe we don't play as often. The likes of like the more foreign teams. Hopefully they can improve a lot. I think that's needed in the scene for the scene to grow. I guess just better quality competition from the teams from the likes of France, Spain, etc. So I'm really excited. I'm buzzing.
You're not worried that the team's going to get better in Europe, and then all of a sudden, like, you're going to have like some random French team or some random Spanish team all of a sudden better than you? Or
honestly, if they are, that's great. Like, honestly,
turn up. That's what he's going to do.
As much, obviously, you always want yourself to be the best, but if there's teams like that rising up and beating us, that's good for the scene. Like, you got to think about the bigger picture at the end of the day. And if we want this to become a bigger thing, potentially careers, whatever, then there needs to be bigger competition from the likes of those teams. So
okay. Tommy?
I mean, I completely agree. I'm sure you guys, I didn't get to catch some things because I had to talk to someone. I apologize for that. But for me, the biggest thing is I like this league because it's going to bring structure to COD esports, what I think something that we've been needing for a while, especially in the European scene. Because the way I look at it is, if you're someone that hasn't played anything before, hasn't played competitive, this league basically means that you've got a ladder in front of you and you can see step by step how you can make your way up here and get into the championship and then the premiership and so on and so forth. So I think it's been really awesome. Question I kind of want to throw to Marky and then you guys can feed into it is, obviously the league is, I think it's going to be leagues of 8 basically, or divisions of 8. What do you think of how they're doing it in terms of the divisions below the championship and premiership? Because obviously, from my understanding, the top team from each division below that will then go into a separate tournament, compete for £1,000, and then the top 2 of that, I think, goes to the championship. Do you think that's good for the scene? Because obviously, let's say you're in division 32. If you had to go 31, 30, 29, 28, and so on and so forth, just to get to the championship, it'd be a bit ridiculous. So let's start with Marky, go Joel, and then we'll finish with Rage.
Well, obviously, it's good to have a sort of progression like there, that everyone has the chance of eventually reaching that like pinnacle, like reaching the pro league, and obviously you have this sort of style of not exactly the same, but you have this sort of style of progression in other sports, and I think it's the best way of doing things. To be honest, I think you need like a league that feeds in. Obviously, in NA, I believe they just have the relegation tournament, and they have like the. But I like the idea of having like a league before that feeds into the top leagues. It gives all those teams that are not actually in the league something to play for as well. There's money there. So I think it's a great idea.
Joel, what's your opinions on it?
I think it, in general, the structure, like, it's logical. It makes sense. The only issue I see is that how many, realistically, how many top quality 18 plus teams are there in Europe that are going to stick together purely to compete in, let's say, the 3rd tier of the Gfinity Pro League? Because I'm not being funny, but if you don't make the Premiership and you don't make the Championship, you're going to be faced with a choice. Do we stay as an 18 plus team, knowing that we stand almost no chance of doing anything at events to compete for the chance to get in into the Championship, or do we go our separate ways, team with some under 18s and kind of have a better chance at LAN events? So for me, there's going to be that disparity, and I hope that the Championship is able to sustain, regular play, so that we have teams going up and down into the Premiership. But beyond the Championship, I don't know. I'm playing devil's advocate, but I'm a bit concerned.
I think you bring up a good point, though, because obviously you're right in saying that if you're going to just make your team 18 plus solely for the fact that Gfinity League is 18 plus, but like basically not get any return in terms of not winning your division and therefore not going to the prize pool tournament. I think you bring up a good point. We'll come on to talk about a little bit as we go on, because obviously there's EGO that have also announced the league that obviously your team will be hopefully in. But Rage, what do you think about the structuring?
The only thing I'm worried about is this structure's been done before in the WGL ages ago around Modern Warfare 3 time, and one kind of problem with that was, well, one problem what got fixed straight away was if there's a team what randomly forms and, you know, they say they're in Division 5, but those players are high quality players and then you just steamroll through Division 5, steamroll through Division 4. Is it really fair that they have to make the progression up? Because they're only kind of wasting their own time, especially if everyone knows that they're at least a championship team. So in the WGL, what they used to do is kind of like match them against championship teams and see whereabouts they lie and so on and so forth. And I feel as if that's something what kind of needs to do, because otherwise if you just have, especially with the age limit being 18, if you have 17-year-olds now turn 18 next season, for example, they join up, they're absolute warriors or whatever. They're amazingly good players, but they have to make the progression from Division 5, Division 4, Division 3, Division 2.
If they are really high standard players, they're gonna most likely get picked up by the other teams. Like,
but that's true. But then obviously whoever replaces them is going to be making another team as well, because there's only a certain amount of people per team. So over a while, the people who get left over are going to have to team with other people, and as a result, you're always going to get that situation where you're going to have these new teams forming, where you're going to have them starting at the very bottom, when in truth they're probably around mid-table, maybe championship, maybe even premiership level. Some of these teams.
Mm.
But one thing I really want to talk about is the actual teams that are in the league, especially the Premiership, because that's kind of like what we know at the minute. VWS qualified last week, I think. Was it Monday, and that was antics. They kind of now VWS. It's a little bit weird, but what does everyone actually think about these teams in the league? Do you feel as if there's a good choice? Do you feel as if there's any other teams what they're missing, and so on and so forth? And we'll go Marky, Joel, Tommy.
Well, I think the teams that are in the league are pretty much all the best 18-plus teams in Europe. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you've got the likes of TCM who are not able to take part, being in the US, and then obviously the old Epsilon squad sort of dispersed. Obviously, it's literally the best teams that are 18-plus that are able to compete. So I think that there's no one that's really missed out, to be honest, that's of age. Obviously, there's a lot of good under-18 teams, which is something that you just touched on a second ago, that it is really sad that they're not able to compete, because some of these under-18 teams are, like, I would say, the better competition than some teams that are in the league, without disrespecting any of the teams. But that's just the way it is. It's the way the cookie crumbles. So it's the way we're going to have to roll. When these players are of age, like, I missed a lot of stuff when I was underage, so I know how it feels. Not as I would say, there's more opportunities now, so it's sort of like worse for them, I guess, because back then it was only really like Call of Duty Championships that you missed, and then that was it. But now there's loads of things that you have to be 18 for. So obviously it is a bit gutting for those players, but when they get to that age, they're gonna get those opportunities, and I'm sure esports is only gonna be bigger at that stage. So hopefully things will be better for them.
Joel,
what's your question?
The question is, what's your overall opinions of the teams that are actually in the Premiership?
The teams.
Do you feel as if, there's anyone who's missing, or?
Well, I said before that I thought the teams that were invited were the correct ones to invite. I think, we've got it's very good to have representation from France, and I think Hyper Games themselves have proven over the series of the past couple of months that they do definitely deserve to be there. Mill, I don't know, they seem to do well online every now and then. They've done quite well at some European events. Have to see how they fare. And obviously Gamers 2, the biggest, the Spanish giants. I suppose the only thing you could say is potentially missing is maybe some like German, Dutch, Italian representation. Fabi. I mean, they've not had the strongest performances recently. The Gfinity, is it Masters and the Open as well?
Yeah.
Were they at the Open? Or, anyway.
No.
So I'm just thinking of big organisations like
Gfinity
them.
Masters.
Yeah, Gfinity Masters, and I don't think
I don't think they won a map. I think they got
3-0 twice. So maybe they didn't deserve an invite, and they should have had to go into those qualifiers. EQ Equinox, pretty decent team. I don't know if they're all 18 plus, but
I think they're underage. Some of them.
In general, the invites were correct. I think VWS were the best team in that qualifying bracket. So didn't surprise me in the end that they qualified. The only team that kind of took them properly close was the lineup with JME, McGee, and co. So I'm kind of thinking they're going to qualify tonight.
That was going to be my next question. I was like, do you think that means that they're probably going to be the favourites to qualify tonight, or do you see if there's any other teams, or do you know of any other teams what you reckon might be able to sneak in there?
There's a couple. I mean, Gefkid and Mimis with the Finnish guys that went to champs. They're in it.
Who did you say, Marky?
I was just going to say it's online, so it really depends.
Exactly.
It depends on the bracket, because the way the Gfinity rules are, the hosts go 1-3-5, which is different to MLG. So you basically get to host 2 respawns and the final S&D. So, for example, if Spirit Gaming from Spain get higher seed, then they're going to be hosting 1-3-5. And trust me, playing on Smash Bros is not fun for anyone
I can
at
imagine.
any level. So,
Spain to UK is further than people think.
So, like, that's what I'm saying. It's really like, and a lot of their connections absolutely suck. So, honestly, when you're playing on their hosts, it's dreadful. You can easily lose. Like, it's for even the best teams in Europe, it's hard to beat them on their hosts. So, honestly, it's going to be hard for the teams that are still left in this competition. If it depends. Like I said, it all depends on the bracket, how it works out. Like Joel said, Gefkid and Mimis and co. If they're another good team, I believe they actually fell victim to the Spanish host.
They did,
first tournament. So that's what I mean. It literally all comes down to brackets and stuff, in my opinion, which is really unfortunate. Like, obviously, I believe the best team of the first tournament did shine through and come through and win. But then again, I think there could be different matchups and bracket and stuff.
So, Tommy, just same question to you. Do you feel as if the teams are right teams? And then who else do you think is probably going to be sneaking through and being the last member or the last team in the Premiership?
Okay, so in terms of the teams that have already been invited, obviously we've seen 6. I think Gfinity have been smart. Obviously, they want organizations in their league, or at least invite the organizations that at the end of the day are already well established, well known, and circumstantially will basically bring in the viewers, and they already have a big following. So I think they've been smart in that sense, and not forgetting that they are basically the top teams in Europe at the moment, give or take a couple of teams. In terms of teams that will qualify, I haven't looked at the bracket for today, but
I'm looking now.
Marky brings up quite a good point about how obviously the league will mean that we don't have a bracket. We just see every team play the other team, I think, twice altogether. And I think that's an important part, because obviously this is a bracket, as Marky says. If you don't get a good run in your bracket and you somehow end up getting, say you're in Germany and you play someone over in Spain or something, it very much comes down to what you're hosting, what maps you're good at, what at the end of the day you are getting and aren't getting on host and off host. So I feel like, because online, especially in Advanced Warfare, fluctuates so much, it's going to be tricky for anyone like that didn't qualify yesterday, that maybe should have qualified. But we'll have to wait and see. Ultimately, the team that comes out will be one of the best teams, but are they the best team that comes out? We don't know.
I just had a very quick look, and it does look like sort of Fabi are in this qualifier now. A lot of
people saying in the chat Copley teams might have a good chance.
Copley's team did well. They did get beaten by Spirit Gaming as well, who, by the way, they're in the top half of the bracket from what I can see.
Oh.
Don't know if that means if they get to the final they'll get host.
Yeah, well, if top half of the bracket means the final.
So if you're thinking, are they favourites to get to the final because they did before? Possibly, and then the team that took VWS closest was sort of McGee, JME, Damo, and Cal. They won't meet until the final. There are quite a lot of other teams looking at the bracket that also have a decent chance. Exertus is, Sowers and co, that 18+ lineup, they're in again. People really need to put better team names.
100%. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah,
like, simple game of
IGI.
tags. Everyone just have MarkyB and Jolie B and Tommy B and
I have Marky as my gamer tag. Somebody took Marky
just have it all, and it's like it makes life so much easier for obviously people like me who are trying to cast, and I'm not very good at reading.
You have no idea who the person is.
So exactly, I'm like X Y quick scope Z Z Y Z.
It's the ones that put GFIN qualifiers. You don't know how infuriating that is when I'm trying to track a bracket and see who's
I can imagine.
Or tournament champions or something like that. Something completely irrelevant. or looking. I seen a team in the bracket the other day. There was a couple of teams that were like looking for an org. That was their team name.
Well,
Or like looking for 3. It's just like,
Like
advertising
really?
for an
You've
org.
entered without a team?
Yeah, exactly.
Juicy just tweeted me, obviously Juicy from the Antics, what's now VVS. He predicts that Fave are going to be going through, so I think Fave's in the
that's a good
bracket.
shout.
it's not a bad shout. I don't. Were they
So-
in Monday? I'm pretty sure they weren't. If they were,
I'm not
they went
aware.
out.
I worked
I
one
think they might have been.
not eSport day.
I think they might have been. If it's the Fave team that I think it is, I think it's like Torres. And
Rush, I think he's back in.
No,
No,
I
Rush
don't
is
even know.
with EQ now, isn't
I don't
he?
even know.
that's right.
I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's Torres. I think Sonny, maybe Dom. I don't even know. I
okay.
think it was like Dom from like my old team.
Hang on,
I think it
I'll
was
have a
them. I could be completely wrong, but that's what I believe the Fame team was on Monday.
Okay.
Right. Well,
Get Joe on it. Joe will be on it.
Tonight
Yeah.
it is Kivi Torres, Mover, Mac, he's playing, and
He's
then Dean,
good.
BE. I don't know who that Gfinity username is, but
Blair.
yes, Kivi
Nice.
Torres and Mover. So yeah, that's another strong team. To be honest, I don't know about you guys, but considering what's on the line here, and getting into the Premiership, playing against the pros, being almost kind of recognised as a pro team. Could they have gone about the qualifiers in a slightly different way? So I understand that there's so many teams, they need to whittle it down with a kind of a standard bracket, but they could have maybe taken the top 8 from each qualifier and done a double bracket, just a double elim bracket, just to kind of so that things like host and
I think they should
who
just-
you draw,
the
how
top-
you're
The
seeded.
top like 16 or whatever the number is, I think they should just stick them on LAN, because time and time again we see with qualifiers that teams get screwed over and don't get the run that they were expecting because it's online, and we all know that online without dedicated servers is just chaos, especially in the EU.
It's a logistical
obviously
issue, though.
You want Marky?
It's a logistical issue, like sticking
Yeah,
teams
it
on
is,
LAN. For,
yeah.
They have to have organisations that'll fund them to the LAN. They have
Yeah,
to,
I
then,
get that.
or Gfinity need to fund them, which is obviously
But if
something they don't need to do.
if they're trying to qualify for the Premiership and they get to one of those, say like top 8 places, I think that's worth it. Do you not?
Well, it was the same as the European qualifiers last year. Is they did it through Gfinity, and from what I can remember, the organisations have to fund them to go to like the little pre-LAN, because it was like 4 teams played off against each other. to qualify.
Yeah.
But that kind of makes sense, because like it's a big tournament, so although it might not be financially viable, the rewards kind of outweigh
These players are
grand
used to
costs.
paying to go to LANs, right? Like things like, if their organizations don't fully fund, which there aren't many in the EU that do, of all the LANs you're going to pay for, that would be one.
Exactly.
But, to counter your point, Tommy, I didn't even think it needed to be a LAN. I just think
Okay.
a double elim
I was just throwing it
or
into kind of
group
discussion.
stages or
Yeah,
just
I'm with you,
something.
though.
Correctly
that-
seeded would also be nice. A correctly seeded bracket, like done off,
Yeah.
like maybe pro points. Obviously, some people may have not entered in pro points tournaments, but there needs to be something there to make the bracket not like heavily one sided. Do you know what I mean?
So the
Which
top,
is why we won't really know the best 8 teams until maybe like season 3, when
Yeah, I'm with
teams
you
are
on that.
getting relegated, promoted,
and then we'll get a new game.
players are turning 18. Yeah, then
Yeah.
we'll get a new game and everyone's irrelevant. So
Yeah, I do agree with you.
I'll
But I
be the
think
best.
if we had like group stages,
You said last year, Marky.
Yeah, I was the best at the start, mate. Do you want to see me? I was destroying people with my
I
friends'
mean,
team.
I don't think it's the right for me to roast. I don't think it's right for me to roast, but I'm pretty certain you left your team, so that's all I'm going to say on the matter.
I didn't leave teams. No, I got
that's a bit
dropped from teams.
awkward.
Oh yeah, but I was still destroying people from the
But
lane
yeah,
back in the day.
let's kind of we've just
Move on.
spent like the last half an hour rambling on about the Gfinity League, and so we have more topics to talk about, and one of them is going to be the 100k. The first 4 places in the Gfinity League get themselves some nice bit of cash. I believe the first place gets 7k, second place gets 3k, third place gets 1k, and then the fourth place share up the scraps of £300. But most importantly, they managed to qualify for the 100k tournament. What, to be fair, kind of was unexpected. It was kind of just an announcement what was just thrown upon people on Monday. It wasn't really hinted at all, and it's massive for the EU. It's for those who don't know, it's basically just a massive event. Who I can hear typing in my ears, and it's really, really off-putting.
Look at the
but
chat.
yeah, okay. But I believe we're gonna be, just kind of taking this on a little bit of a break. and
Goalie's
we'll talk about
stressing out
the
here.
Gfinity League a little bit more, because Goalie's shouting at me, and I don't like him shouting at me. So we're gonna talk about the Gfinity League later on. So the Gfinity 100k event later on. So make sure you stay tuned to that. So we're gonna go for about a 1 minute break. So click on the kettle, get yourself a cup of tea, and we'll see you on the other side in a minute. Bye. Hey, what is up, guys, and welcome back to the STiKS UC MarkyB now. Presenting, displaying, like the Scuff Gills, a Scuff controller, and the reason why
Give
is
us a
because
twirl.
obviously- Give us a twirl. And the reason why is because you can get your hands on a controller just like that by using the code STiKS for 5% off your latest purchase. So, 5% off, save some pennies, and then you can put that towards a tea fund or the biscuit fund or whatever else you want. And as well as that, get some G Fuel while you're on the internet. While you're going to treat yourself, get some G Fuel. Use the code STiKS, same code as for the Scuff, and you get 10% off G Fuel. So everyone's a winner. 15% off saved in total. Get yourself some tea. Anyway,
one of those ads, like the TV ads.
Anyway, I believe Tommy, you kind of want to touch on something.
Yeah, so I brought up something to the guys from the chat. Someone called OhMy1233. I do thank you because you brought up quite a good point that we missed that I actually wasn't aware of, but Marky and others were. So basically, for the Gfinity League, I presume this is going to be for at least the Premiership and Championship. I'm not sure about the other divisions, but it's a best of 8. What sounds very bizarre, but what, to my understanding, they're going to play out all the all the maps. And if it's tied at 4-4, they both get a point. And then obviously, if you win 5-3 or whatever, you obviously get 3 points or whatever it is. And I think the point of that is so that if you play out all the maps, everyone would have played the same amount of maps by the end of it. And then you can have an equal map count. I don't know if you want to add on to that, Marky or
I was
Joel.
about to say, Marky's probably the best person to ask.
Well, honestly, like a lot of the tournament, that's been a major argument from tournaments before that, like in Call of Duty in particular, there could be series that end 3-0, 3-1, 3-2, obviously. And sometimes you're not playing out the entirety of the series, so it's like when you're going off maps in a league system like that, then it's kind of unfair at times because some teams could be screwed over by like a series where they could have easily won those last 2 maps, even though they would have lost the series. It could have affected them going through or not. So I like the format, although it would be weird if you're. Hopefully, I would never be in this situation. But if you're like 5-0 down, knowing you can't win the series, you're just literally playing to.
No, surely not. Like, surely if a team gets 5.
No, you have to play all 8 maps.
You have to play
Is that
all
because there's map difference? Like,
that's what I'm saying.
So basically means
That's a little bit
I presume it means so at the end, everyone's played exactly the same amount of maps.
If you go 4-0 down in a football match, like you can't just be like, "Oh, ref, we'll call it there." Like, so I kind of get it, and like,
imagine a 4-0 comeback though.
I mean, the Americans are going to absolutely hate the idea of there being a draw, right?
Yeah.
They love overtime.
Playoff,
That's why S&D goes 6-5. That's why you can't
the Americans
draw.
just love to like throw playoffs in, so this is just like a great way. It's like, oh, you was joint 7th.
But my point is, it's fair because I'll take you back to GFin Masters Vitality playing against Optic Nation, one of the best series of the weekend. I think the first time they played Vitality won, but because of the way the groups work, they played each other again to go through. And I think Nation won 6-5 last map, 3-2.
Yeah,
it was incredibly tight anyway. So like, sorry, but I know it's just but my point is like neither team deserved to go out off the back of that. So in the league, neither team would deserve to lose. So then to share the spoils, I like it. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it's very different, but I like that they're introducing their own kind of approach rather than just jumping on the bandwagon of what M or G do or someone else do. So I like they're being creative.
I would like a best of 6. Not gonna lie, I don't like the idea of like literally.
I'd like a best of 1, please. I'm only good at hardpoint.
6 code.
I mean, it's kind of like it's gonna be weird if you're like I was about to say, like if you're like 5-0 down, knowing you can't win the series. That you're only playing literally to hopefully improve your map count, which could at the end of the day affect your position. But it's a weird situation to be in. So.
Yeah, right. Well, we kind of want to like talk about the 100K because it's pretty significant in terms of EU events. Every time there's like a bigger prize pot, it's always going to get more attention from overseas, be it America and be it Australia. So there's going to be a lot of people watching this, looking at this event. And the way it kind of works is kind of like the traditional Masters where teams are going to be invited. I believe there's going to be 16 teams in total. 12 teams are going to be invited. And then 4, obviously the top 4 of the Gfinity League kind of earn themselves a place alongside those top teams, 12 teams invited. But one question I want to kind of put forward is it really fair? Because say, for example, Marky, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to do this, but say, for example, whatever reason you finish 5th in the league, your team finished 5th in the league, it makes sense that Epsilon would be invited as one of the invited teams, because obviously your team is a good team. So do you not think that's kind of unfair? Will we see players and teams that are in the league get an invite to the 100k even though they're already in the league? Think about that and chip in.
No idea.
Anyone?
I'm not entirely sure. To be honest.
I'd say, why do they deserve an invite? If they're playing a league where you get to play almost every map against every single team, and it's on LAN, so there's not even connection host issues, then if you finish 5th, there are 4 teams better than you in Europe.
Yeah, but obviously, say for example, you've got a Vitality and Epsilon and Millennium, one of these big organizations, because there is a lot of big organizations. There's more than 4 big organizations in the league.
Yeah. I mean, so listen, there might be wild cards.
They all get a fair chance.
Yeah,
whoever gets in the
tournament.
they all get a fair chance.
Oh,
that's the biggest thing.
Say if there's in America and Optic finished 5th in the league, there's a good chance they'll be like, oh, we
honestly, on Ghost
we put the small print that Optic actually get invited anyway. So
but that happened at PAX East, and they didn't attend. No one, I think you can't give special privileges for these bigger organizations. You have to be fair.
I mean, arguably, they've already been given special privileges for getting an invite into the Pro League. Now, obviously, we've said that those teams deserve it. Whether or not it's done completely on playing talent or, size of organization or draw of the audience or however Gfinity have done it, we agree with their choices, but there will be people that don't. And the fact that they got an invite in the first place, they were kind of given the wild card choice. So, now it's all about talent and it's all about who performs the best.
And then obviously the 12 teams who are invited, do we just see, is it going to be the typical Gfinity Masters where we have teams from all over the globe? So I assume you're going to be seeing a lot of American teams coming over, what I'm sure is probably good, because American teams at the minute are the better teams. As much as it's painful for me to say that as a diehard European fan.
Alex sobs it here every night.
I know,
I'm sure Mindfreak will be be back.
And then I was about to say, will we be seeing some Australian teams come over?
I really feel sorry for Mindfreak
because they didn't really have the greatest Masters performance last time round. So, what's your opinions on that? Are we going to see some surprise teams? Because I know there's a lot of tweets going around between the American players. I think Neslo was kind of tweeting it about how it's unfair and stuff like that, how certain teams get picked. So, what's your opinions on that? Do you feel as if it's necessary that some of the bigger teams, like the Denials, like the Optics, like the MVs, automatically get chosen, even though there might be better teams out there?
I'm not entirely sure how they'll do it. Obviously it's top 4 from the EU Pro League, and then how many teams are on there in the NA Pro League? 10? Is it 10?
12.
Well, okay, it's 12. Okay, so they might just invite the 12 EU. They might just invite the 12 American
international teams. I reckon they'll invite Mindfreak. Let's bear
that. They could invite the top 8 or top 10 NA teams, and then they might invite
I agree.
Maybe they might invite 2 Australian teams. Who knows? But I don't really see where else they'd invite teams from.
In my opinion, I think they should announce how you can qualify from it now, so that players and teams know from America, Australia that, okay, we need to get in the Pro League, otherwise we're not going to be at 100k, rather than announcing it a week or 2 before, and then everyone's like, well, we didn't know about this at the time. I think that's the biggest thing. Gfinity in the past have maybe released information a bit late, I'll say, and I'd like them to just release the details now. Everyone knows about it. It's a massive tournament. Everyone's going to want to be there. Release the information now if they have it, and then everyone's understands how they can qualify.
Yeah. As much as I love Gfinity events, all their events previously have always been I'm pretty sure the majority of them have been invited teams. So there's never been a strict way if you place top 5 here or if you place top. It's never been a specific bar a few online qualifiers for Gfinity events for EU teams. But now that they've announced that it's the top 4 from EU League, I think they need to go and say okay, it's gonna be the top 8 from the NA League, and then maybe an online competition in Australia or something like that. I don't know. But that's the way I'd like to do it. I like the fact that it's because I hate when people are arguing oh, we should have been invited. I hate there needs to be a specific way of you qualified because you came top 8 in this tournament, not you qualified because you're Optic Gaming.
It shouldn't be like ESWC where Millennium and Optic Gaming got fan voted in, because we all knew they would.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't agree with that.
Whilst I agree on almost every count, the thing about getting those teams there, you have to understand, for esports as a whole, we want the industry to grow. In order to do that, the stream numbers and the kind of spectator tickets that get sold need to be at their absolute maximum, so that companies like Gfinity can go to people like the Sun newspaper and be like, oh, look, we got so and so many thousand viewers watching our last stream. If Optic aren't there,
Yep.
I get it
suffers,
doesn't benefit
right?
them, but I just stand by the fact that it's unfair to just.
No, I get it, and I do think it should be completely done.
Like, if they're not
on
good
talent,
enough, they shouldn't be there.
But I empathise with why they've done.
Oh, totally. Yeah. They've it's like how the Spring Masters #1. The majority of the teams were American, when realistically Gfinity should be promoting COD esports in Europe, but they've done that because we all know that the best talent and the best teams are in America, like without a doubt. So you can understand why they do it. It's just kind of finding a happy medium of them being happy and all the pro players and community being happy of how teams have got there, I feel.
One thing I want to talk about, we kind of mentioned it on the pre-show. Marky obviously wasn't there because he was doing his hair and attempting to iron his shirt. What apparently he's failed at. But,
no,
so obviously, Marky, I want to hear your opinions on this. But we kind of talked about the prize pool breakdown for the 100k. We mentioned how first place gets half it, so 50k was quite good. I'm
Can't
sure.
wait to win that.
So I'm sure you'll be happy to win 50k. And then second place gets 25k, third place gets 10k, fourth gets 5k, and then fifth through to eighth get 2,500 each. So what's your opinions on obviously the prize pool going all the way down to eighth place and paying out that way? And yeah, if everyone kind of chip in, kind of like we did before in the pre-show, off we go.
I think as soon as you start reaching like a certain amount of money, like you need to start introducing like the prize pot lower down. They've just got that sort of money to fill in there. Obviously, I do like the idea of like having. I do like when it's like top 3 payout because it sort of gives you something to achieve. I don't know. I sort of guess it's nice to like spread the money out across the board because I guess it allows everyone to sort of. It's more sustainable for everyone to as players and stuff like that, or as organizations earning more money, etc. So yeah, I agree with the way they've done it. It's like they've got a massive prize pot of 100k, so doing it that way is fine in my opinion.
Joe, you was quite vocal about it in the pre-show, so why don't you go kind of echo what you said?
So obviously I'm representative of an esports organization owner for an organization that is. There's a lot of us that are we're working really hard. And we're trying to grow, and I could throw out names, but I'm not going to. But basically, just outside that kind of elite bracket, the Vitality Epsilon, blah, blah. So, like, in order for us to build a sustainable business model, there needs to be ways that we can bring in revenue. There's lots of options, but one of the main streams of income in esports is prize money, right? Especially for players. Now, in order for it to be viable for us to keep going on a long-term basis, there needs to be more spreading of the money. Now, I appreciate that we need to be attractive and have that kind of big number, but like Marky says, once you reach a certain number, like if this tournament, this summer championship was 50k prize pool instead of 100, every single team that would go for half the money. So I'm glad that they've almost doubled their prize pot, whatever, to 100k, but they're spreading it out. It's brilliant. Every single event organizer, I would encourage you to learn from that and try and do the same.
I think you make a good point. I really like that because we were obviously, as you talked about, Alex, talking about this in the pre-show, we were talking about how some events like to just do top 4 for the prize pool, and I think for the sakes of the likes of Joel's XO Esports and other organizations that may be on the brink of being there, I think putting it across maybe 8 teams or I don't know how many, it's definitely a good thing because obviously it means then more people are getting a share of the prize pool. Therefore, if anything, it's more of an incentive knowing that instead of having to place top 4, you only have to place top 8. So I can definitely see it being something good going forward if they continue to do this. I mean, what do you guys think about, obviously, Joel, you've touched on it. Obviously, it's 100k. Now, let's just put this in perspective because obviously the other Gfinity Masters have been 20k. So what, because this question relates to what I saw from Denial's CEO of saying no major organization or top organization should attend LANs unless it's 50k or above. But obviously Gfinity's kind of an exception because they like to fund the teams and players that come out. But are we getting to the point where we're expecting 50k prize pools as like a minimum?
We're not. Well, I don't know. I mean, obviously, EU America, there's a disparity there, but I'd say we shouldn't be that. What's the word? Like, we're not that entitled yet.
We shouldn't take it for granted, basically.
No, absolutely not.
Do you not think there's going to come a point where we won't see big organisations attending maybe 5Ks and 10Ks?
Good. It gives other organisations a chance to make a livelihood.
I feel like that's what we're seeing in the NA. I feel like the likes of like MES that happened a couple of weeks ago. I'm sorry to bring up the American scene, but they had a 20k LAN and literally no pro teams attended.
Yeah,
and if that was
right?
Yeah, exactly. And if that was here in the UK, every pro team or every big team would attend it. So do you think we're getting towards it?
Or it's full, just make a team and attend it, and Marky will just carry them all with
But no, it is starting to happen here. Look at the first Amateur Pro. Epsilon were the only, pro team that went at the time.
And that was a massive success as well.
Yeah, and obviously there's the whole naming issue. Won't go into that, but these smaller prize pots will eventually not. We will move away from them. The pro teams will, but that allows other organisations to come in.
Right.
Yeah.
It's only going to go up. Prize money across the board, across esports, let alone Call of Duty, is only going to go up.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like at the moment, or at least the general kind of consensus from the community, is the only way to track growth is prize money and viewership. When it's not, there's a lot more obviously that goes into it. But we're going to move on to talk about EGO because they're running something very similar to what Gfinity are doing, but it's mainly going to be on LAN from my understanding. Obviously, it was earlier announced this week that XL Esports will be there, and I think Vitality and Epsilon and Infused, was it, if I'm not mistaken?
And Equinox.
And Equinox, sorry, I do apologise. We'll all be there. So I'm going to hand this off to kind of Joel because Joel has a good understanding of it, but just to kind of briefly go over it, they're running something very similar, but from my understanding, they've got a LAN qualifier coming up at the end of June, and then they've got, I think, 4 LAN kind of stages of the league, and then depending on where you place, you get a certain amount of points, and then that obviously goes into a league table.
Yeah, we're not entirely sure of the format beyond really the qualifiers. Basically, with the qualifiers, there's a number of invited teams that will go into the championship series. So all the teams that you mentioned so far are the only 5 that have been announced for that series. But I am aware of other, fairly big organisations getting invites. So hopefully that will fill up soon. And then they'll go to a LAN. It's in Brussels. It's the weekend before Amateur Pro, so it's the end of this month. The top 12 teams from that LAN, so that's the championship series, and there's like a challenger series, which is like an open bracket.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to Gfinity in the sense of Premiership and Championship.
Kind of, yeah, but obviously this is the qualifying tournament, so only the top 12 from the whole weekend will qualify for. It's not called a league anymore. It's the EGO Championship Series.
Yeah.
So there's no conflict there between EGO and Gfinity.
It is basically a series. It's a series of LANs.
It's a series of LANs, exactly.
If my understanding is correct, you earn points or something depending on where you place.
I think so, yeah.
The question I kind of want to ask before we go into a bit more is, what method, in terms of Gfinity and EGO, do you guys prefer? Because obviously EGO are doing it where they're inviting a lot of teams, and teams can come along and basically have their chance to qualify for their top division, and if not their second division, whereas Gfinity have straight off the bat invited 6 out of the 8 teams. Which one do you prefer? Because obviously a lot of organizations will probably be unhappy with Gfinity allowing 6 teams to be invited rather than maybe only 4 and then have more spots available up for grabs.
I mean, I'll give it over to Marky, but the one thing I want to say about the difference in methods, EGO is not 18 plus.
That's a good point.
Personally, I prefer the Gfinity. Although I do agree with the whole 18 plus thing. Obviously, it's better to have all those teams flooding in. I do sort of enjoy the Gfinity format more. I've not really looked too much into the Ego format, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
I just know it's a series of LAN events, etc. I'm
It
like,
look, to be honest, isn't that the same as Gfinity? Is Gfinity actually going to have an online component to this league? Because I know the first fixtures are played on LAN.
It's going to be every other Wednesday, I think. And then there is
Okay.
The Gfinity Spring Masters 2 is now being turned into the weekend where all 8 of the teams will come down to London and they'll play league matches.
But that's the first matches, isn't it?
So basically, I'll explain what's happening. It's not been announced, right? The first, it's been announced. It's the first weekend of the first week, of the Gfinity League will be played online. So like the matches you'd play online, So the matches you'd play online on the day it would be, you'll be playing at LAN. So it's sort of like a more level playing field, obviously. Mm-hmm. But after that, that's just to sort of, I guess, publicize it more, so they're able to bring that level of production that they can at the Gfinity Arena. They're going to make obviously a really like sort of good start off, and then after that, it's going to be online for the remainder of the matches. So I don't. Obviously, you look at the likes of the LCS and League of Legends. They have every single match they're playing at LAN. Obviously,
they've got the money. That's
obviously,
we'll get there.
Obviously. So ideally, one day, Gfinity the league will one day hopefully be everyone. Obviously, in my wildest dreams, this is what's happening. We're all living in London. We all play every weekend at the Gfinity Arena. So that's
you're outside of London, you've got no hope.
But who knows if that will ever happen.
I definitely feel like, would you guys agree in saying that we're going in the right direction, though? Because obviously, I think it's with EGO kind of stepping in with their league as well as Gfinity. It just seems like
series.
We are definitely moving in the right direction. So
don't call it league.
You're literally going to bring that up every time I say it now. Okay, the EGO series and the Gfinity League.
It's excellent. I mean, this is exactly what we need. We've been saying it for the past, 6 to 8 months. Is we need the opportunity for the top teams in Europe, be that 18 plus, under 18, whatever. The top teams need the opportunity to be playing against each other regularly in competition, and some money to kind of sustain their livelihoods, the organizations, whatever. If we're going to get to the stage where we can go to champs and have really good placings with multiple European teams, bearing in mind we can't every week play against the top teams from America. It's until this super internet where there's no issues across the world, that's not going to happen.
Never going to happen.
So the best we can do is at least have regular competition between the best European teams, not scrims, not random brackets, a league. And we've been saying it, and it just so happens we've got a league and a series. It's not a league.
We've got
at the same time, and there might be more
competitions.
We don't know. There might be more. Don't forget, there's other LAN. We've got Amateur Pro 2. We've got EGL City LAN, Insomnia 55.
Well,
even Epic LAN tried to have COD. So
don't forget City LAN as well. They've got a good. I don't know how much, but I definitely agree with you. What do you think, Rage and Marky, about it?
I think the concept is kind of like everyone's been wanting a league for ages and ages, and now 2 of them have come at once. Obviously, it's a series, not a league. Like they're basically the same thing. So the fact that everyone's been like, oh, I need this, like it will help the scene grow, and then 2 separate companies have said they're gonna do this, and it's like it's a little bit awkward because now they're like both doing it and they're both like running alongside each other. So that could be a little bit confusing because obviously one team what's top of the Gfinity League might be bottom of the series. So it's like obviously that could kind of be a thing, and then it would lead to confusion and so on and so forth. But the fact that one of them's 18 plus, then the EGO series is kind of, it's open to anyone. I think that's quite good by EGO. Obviously, they've probably used their brain a little bit and was like, we're going to get a lot of interest because of the fact that people are going to be looking at the Gfinity League and comparing the fact that they can't play on it because they're 16 and 17.
I mean, it's a massive commitment as well because they're doing, you've got the online qualifier that, as Joel said, is right before Amateur Pro. Then you've got...
That's LAN. It's at LAN.
That's what I mean. You got the
you said online.
Sorry, you're right. I did say online. You got the qualifier for the series just before Amateur Pro, and then you've got obviously the 4 stages of the series, and I think the final one is the actual final. And it's worth mentioning, if I'm not mistaken, I think EGO are going to have, I don't know if it's their venue, but they're going to have the same venue for every single LAN in Brussels, if I'm not mistaken, apart from the final. I don't know if you
Didn't
guys
you go to? Didn't you go to?
Yeah. I believe they own like it's not the Gfinity Arena, but
but it's something.
as like a venue where they have like that's what I would say they have around. They've got like a very small venue. There was not that many teams there when I was there, and I'm not entirely sure they're going to fit 32 if it's 32 teams in that small venue, but it's a very small venue. They've got a sort of main stage area, a spectators area with seats, etc. All the basics really. But yeah,
I think from what I've seen in the pictures, especially like coming from people like you and everyone else who turned up, the word for it is probably cozy. Because it looks quite small, but it looks really well done. I mean, the main stage, especially for me, because I didn't really know too much about EGO. So this first event they did, it was like, wow. Because usually the first LAN event for a company is usually not necessarily worse because it's kind of teething issues. You know, they're sorting out production. You don't know what's going to happen, as you say, Tommy. So the fact that EGO kind of, I won't say hit the nail on the head because everywhere there's room for improvement, but the fact that they did a pretty good job in their first event is kind of leaning towards this league series. The series is going to be quite well done.
I hope so. I do hope so.
I mean, they've already had they've already had 2 LANs in Advanced Warfare, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're well on their way. I mean, they obviously see COD Esports as an investment, and I think if they do it right, this is going to be great for the scene. And this series, hopefully, will be just the start of many good things to come, I feel.
Yeah. I do believe they actually ran quite a few LANs at the Ego, I don't even know what to call it. I'm going to call it the Ego Arena for now, right? But I do believe they have some sort of affiliation with, like, I could be completely wrong, but there was a lot of, like, sort of Xbox branding stuff there. Right. And they run a lot of, like, sort of, like, DLC events and things like that.
I think they have links, it's fair to say.
They have, like, they run loads of events there, so it's been interesting to see what that sort of brings to the table. And I'm interested to see what they can do to improve from the events, because I certainly think there's a lot of room for improvement from the ones that I was at. Obviously, production value is like an incredibly important thing. I think they need to improve that slightly. And just, yeah, I'm looking forward to attending though, hopefully. So.
Awesome.
No, yeah, it definitely looks good from what I've heard of it. But we're actually going to go for a quick short break. We asked you to tweet out questions. Well, we tweeted out asking for questions for Joel, Marky, and maybe me and Tommy if you want to know how our day is. So make sure you stay on for that. If you have any more questions, leave them in the chat if you missed a tweet, and we'll get around to them if we've got time at the end. But yeah, stay tuned. Flick on the kettle, fill up for your cup of tea, and we'll see you on the other side of this minute. Bye. Hey guys, welcome back. Got a question from Twitter coming up, but as per usual, as we do last time, check down below for all the codes, discounts, and all the good things you like in your gaming life. So make sure you check them out. And yeah, we want to talk about questions. We didn't really get too many because I can't tweet them out apparently, and I forgot. Might have been a problem, but yeah, the first question coming in from a weird Gingy, who I think is taller than me. What I'm not really too happy about, because anyone who's taller than me, I automatically don't really like them. But
that's a rare occasion. It
is a rare occasion considering I'm like the height of a bus. But yeah, the question is, what is your main thoughts on the Pro League? On which teams do you expect to qualify? So we kind of touched on the league, but we didn't do predictions. So we'll go MarkyB, Joel, Tommy, and then myself. Off we go.
I've literally just spaced out what you just said. I was literally reading something else.
Who just...
I was reading something. Sorry. What was the question?
I'm going to actually change.
You had one job.
I'm so ignorant. Sorry. I apologise.
I'm going to change the question because he asked who do we expect to qualify for the league, but what I'm going to try and change it to is who do you expect to place in the top 4 and then qualify to the 100k.
Okay. Well, first of all, one is going to be ourselves. Epsilon, then Vitality second. Third, I don't know. There's quite a few teams that I believe that could fit in the 3rd and 4th slot, to be honest. Infused have improved a lot recently. And then, I don't know, there's literally maybe the VWS team. They're pretty good online, so obviously with the majority of the competition being online, then you could see those teams slipping in there.
Joel?
Epsilon, Vitality, Hyper Games, VWS, or Infused. It depends who beats each other. That's what I'm going to call it.
Jeez.
I mean,
I think Vitality Vitality will be up there. Epsilon will be up there. I honestly could see Hyper Games in the top 4. I don't know about third place though.
Yeah, they're kind of interchangeable. My last.
Yeah,
two
I
teams.
mean, I don't know who's gonna. This is my like top 4, but I don't know who's gonna place like first, second, third, fourth. Who else is already in there at the moment?
Gamers 2,
Gamers,
Millennium, Infused.
Infused could be up there definitely.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
yeah, let's stick with that. Infused, Hyper
players.
Games, Vitality, and Epsilon in no order. But Alex, have you given your opinion?
No, I'm gonna say. I gotta kind of say Epsilon. Because I don't say Epsilon, then Marky is just gonna walk out and leave, and that's gonna be really awkward for the end of the show. So Epsilon, Vitality. I've got Infused as well. I feel as if Infused are gonna kind of surprise a few people. And then the 4th place is kind of open. I wouldn't say there's really a clear winner. I think Gamers 2, you might be able to ride that host a little bit. Everyone kind of says host is a factor, so that's always a possibility. Then VWS, they're also a good team. So I believe one of those two probably going to go through, but Epsilon, Team Vitality, and Infused, I'm going to say probably the safe 3 bet. And
on this note, I have a question for Marky, which
question
just
from Twitter to Joel to Marky.
Yeah, so it's on this note, but it's obviously Vitality, Epsilon, the big rival. Everyone's expecting you two to essentially place top 2. That's the expectation. Now, when the teams were formed, obviously it was almost like it was almost on paper they split 2 teams and they joined, and then the guys that were kind of left over, you kind of merged into essentially your team. Obviously, you and Reedy chose to leave. I won't get into the politics of it, but everyone was kind of saying on paper, "Oh, Vitality, like EU's best," and then there's you guys. But actually, over the past couple of weeks, you 3-0'd them in a Gfinity online. You went on an insane streak of winning the online tournaments. Do you think that you guys have just adapted?
Wait, screenshot, thumbnail.
Oh, that's answered your question right there, Joel.
No, I'm only joking. I just literally
Drop the mic and walk away.
that was the perfect time to do that. I just literally just found the perfect time to do that. But yeah, obviously, continue your question. Sorry.
No, that was it. So, like, do you think it's because you guys have adapted as a team faster, or do you think you're going to sustain it?
It's hard to say. Like, obviously, doing well online is good for your confidence going forward to events and stuff. But really, all that matters is stepping up into the plate and performing at LAN. So, like, although we've pretty much been dominating online recently, literally all that matters is us beating them at LAN. In my mind, anyway. Like, so I don't know. I don't really want to talk too much in the matter, but like I said, it's just it's a weird situation because, like you said, it's like a lot. Some people have actually compared it to the Envy denial situation before Call of Duty Championships. How like the sort of the better two of denial sort of actually which was Zuma and Saints, where were regarded as the better 2, moved to Envy, and then the Denial Squad, which is sort of the leftovers team, end up winning the World Championships. A lot of people have compared it to that, but like I said...
So does that mean when you beat them, you're going to be tweeting out, like, #who won the trade and all that stuff?
No.
Are you going to schedule the tweet?
Burning them.
No. But like I said, I'm not taking any of these online results as anything. I still think that their team is... I've been in TCM before where we've dominated Epsilon online, and then they've beat us a LAN, and all that online victory has been irrelevant. And then it's worked the same way where Epsilon dominated us last year on Ghost before Gfinity regional before regionals of Call of Duty Championships, and then we beat them there. And honestly, you regret winning all those online tournaments when it comes to the LAN success, because although you may have won slightly more money or something like that, but the reputation, in my opinion, like goes above everything else, and I just want to win LAN events. So that's all I really care about.
Okay.
Good question though. Okay, we're gonna move on to question number 2, coming in from Kaza. I'm gonna go with Kaza FPS. Basically wants to know, this is for you, Marky, by the way. Are you confident in your new squad to be able to carry on the Epsilon legacy?
A a lot of people ask me this actually on tweets and stuff. I've not really responded to them, but
How is your chance? Everyone out there who's ever...
Good, just remove the pressure completely.
That's the best way of saying no comment on it.
It's a really weird situation because obviously a lot of those Epsilon players who formed that squad were very well known in the community, and they had a lot of success over the last year and a half. In both international and domestic competitions, more so. They won literally pretty much every domestic competition that they've been involved in.
I think there was a statistic where every single Advanced Warfare LAN in the UK at least where they attended, they won or something like that. So it was a pretty.
I think the last time they lost, Tommy lost an EU event was back when I beat him on Ghosts. And same goes for Josh. Back when we beat them on Ghosts at EU regionals, so that's quite a long period of time.
Yeah, that's a good shout actually. So, yeah, I didn't think about that.
So like I said, like these players have been through the periods of time where they're not competing well online and stuff, and they've bounced back. But you you asked on Twitter, whoever it was, it's obviously it's big shoes to fill. It's a team that have been very successful beforehand, but I believe that my team is a very good one itself, very underrated, and we all have the same mentality, we all have the same goals and what we want to achieve. We all want to be the best, and we all just play for the win. And I would say there's other players that maybe think more about themselves, and I think we've got a very selfless team that all just will do whatever it takes to win. So. And I've probably said this before, to be honest, but I've generally never felt like this much that I've had a group of players that have been this dedicated to that cause. So, I'd like to say we're going to domestically at least, hopefully maintain Epsilon's record. Hopefully,
that's good. It's always positive. I mean, it'd be pretty bad if you just sat there and said, "No, we're not gonna win anything." I mean, that'd be always quite worrying to hear. But it's kind of a lot of pressure on your shoulders. No pressure, but it is a lot of pressure. So hopefully you do well, because it's always nice to see Epsilon doing well. Again, still can't get used to the whole Epsilon MarkyB. It's going to be weird seeing him in an Epsilon jersey. But the next question coming in is from, oh my god, it's Abby D, I believe. Probably just messed that up, but he wants to ask potential top teams in the EU now, considering TCM and Epsilon potentially are now in the NA. What kind of already makes sense because Epsilon has two teams. So I assume he means the Epsilon with obviously Swanee going. So we kind of answer this in our league predictions, because the top teams who are going to come first, second, and third are probably going to be the same. So we'll just kind of fly through this. So we'll go Joel, Marky, and I'll do mine, and then Tommy, you can do yours.
I mean, we already discussed where we thought the league placements were going to be. Just I suppose on this topic, good luck to Dylan and Callum out in the States. I genuinely hope it goes well. I mentioned this on the STiKS before, but the more of our players that go over there and do well, the more well respected. Yep. You know, obviously with TCM doing brilliantly, that was the first major step. Props to them. We need more of it. We need more players getting drafted over there to go and play in the big league.
Yeah. Looking at the question, actually, there's a room to mention a lot of the under 18 players as well. There's obviously
shout,
it asked the potential top teams in the EU. And obviously we have the league, but there are a lot of teams likes of Joel's XL squad, are a really good up and coming team. And obviously, the ones we've already mentioned in the league, there's numerous teams. It's hard to say what the top teams are going to be, because a lot of these teams are just filled with these unknown young gun sort of style players that we really don't know what to expect of them. So it's going to be interesting to see the first event where all these teams can come together and compete against one another.
Yeah, I was just about to kind of saying the same thing. As it's going to be hard to tell, especially considering the year's under 18s, until we do see our first event. And I think the first event, what a lot of teams are probably going to be attending, is probably going to be Am2 Pro.
EGO.
Well, will we see some under 18s come over to Brussels? Because obviously, I mean, if I was 16 years old and I said to my mum I'm going to Brussels to play Call of Duty, she'll probably hit me and be.
Well, look, I mean, who are out there? We're going already, and we're an under 18s team. The other big under 18 team, Exertus is lineup, Rift. I don't know who Aware and Barrage are going to pick up, if anyone, but they might grab teams. There are some other teams as well, high potential. So if they all go to EGO and all the pro teams go, that's almost a better indicator than the Gfinity thing, because it's all ages.
I was gonna ask you something, Joel. Obviously, you talk about how your squad for EGO are actually under 18. So does that mean that you're going to have a separate squad for EGO and for Gfinity, or are you not planning on investing time into Gfinity?
We were. I was very, very public about the fact that it was. So bearing in mind, this was before we knew anything about EGO.
Yeah.
I was very public about the fact that the Gfinity Pro League was our #1 priority.
Yeah.
For strategically obvious reasons. Then they announced the invites and that there would only be 2 teams qualifying. We already know one of those teams is represented by quite a big organisation. That leaves 1 spot. And you've got organisations like Aware, Barrage, even Orbit, that, don't have EU COD teams, really. Barrage do have a Swedish team, but they don't have kind of a top European team. So big orgs like Aware and Barrage, they're going to be circling around whoever qualifies tonight. So whoever they are, do not take your first offer. That's my advice.
Say
That's
no.
a good point.
My organisation, what I'm going to make. The STiKS is going to have a team in the league sorted. So
to kind of answer your question, you were primarily, and now obviously with the announcement of EGO, you kind of shifted.
I'm not ruling it out, especially as Marky pointed out before the show, but actually the prize money for the championship, as well as getting promoted into the Premiership, the prize money for the championship is pretty good. It's like $1,500 for finishing first. It's not as big as a LAN, but it's an online tournament.
Yeah, essentially. It's not bad for, So basically, what Joel is saying, whoever wins today, wait for Joel's offer.
No, wait for our offer as the STiKS, because we'll approach them and we'll have the STiKSLive.
Yes, the STiKS will be in contact. We'll have.
I'll contact you as well.
Whoever qualifies is going to get a number of offers.
We will offer free fuel.
There's going to be 8 teams.
And
we have 5% codes.
But you have to pay 95%.
But no, I'm not. Yeah,
if anyone wants to join my team, Team MarkyB, I have garlic dip that I can offer to any of you who wish to join. So keep that in mind.
10% off an iron as well.
Yep, exactly. You know the deal.
Let's move on to the next question before we start making fools of ourselves even more.
Okay, so the last question is actually kind of talking about the whole 18 plus Gfinity. Is that holding back the scene? And I think we've talked about it too much. So I actually want to go to another question that I actually got tweeted. I think you guys got tweeted as well. And it's basically saying, it comes in from EGO. I don't know how you pronounce his name, but you're not going to see it on screen because I haven't sent it to Goalie, sadly. But it basically says, how can the Goalie's sighing? I already know I'm getting in trouble. He basically says, how can the EU fill the skill gap between themselves and the NA? Anyone want to take that?
Sigh.
I touched on it before. So saying the first step is exactly what is happening. Yeah. We need the top teams playing each other on a more regular basis in a regular competition like a league or a series. So first step, tick. Let's hope they go well. Second step is getting either organizations being able to afford to fund enough prize money to get the Americans over, or esports organizations like Vitality or Excel sending their teams across the States more. That's going to be the only way we bridge the gap beyond just playing against the best within Europe.
It's really hard to answer that question because it's really hard because I just feel like the talent pool is larger in the US, and it's really hard because in the EU we have sort of like you said, we are now going to be able to compete against each other on a more regular basis, but the EU community is somewhat still very segregated into like the sort of different countries, and it's really hard to like sort of. Because there could be, like, I've said this numerous times. This is a debate that I've had so many times. Like, I don't even think I've probably had this debate more than anything I've ever discussed in my life. Right? This is the one thing I've talked about the most. Right? But right, I don't even know what I'm saying.
Very passionate. Okay.
I'm very passionate about this. Right? But it's really hard to like form squads because in Call of Duty, communication is such a big thing. It's really like hard to form squads that there could be like a French player that could be as good as Jard.
German, UK.
Could be like a player
Yeah.
from Germany that could be as good as someone, but like you're only as good as your teammates, and you're only as good as your team and your teamwork. So no one's ever going to know it. Everyone always judges players off their individual like their placements and
There's
how
so
their
much more
team
around the
performs.
game.
Yeah, exactly, and it's and you have to, because you can't really like it's also hard to like play with one of these players that doesn't speak fluent English, because like I said, communication is a very important thing in Call of Duty, if not the most important thing, easily, because I mean obviously the US players don't have like experience it often, but playing with someone that doesn't have English as their first language is very difficult, because I've done it. I've done it numerous times, and it can cost you. Like Call of Duty comes down to sort of minor things on the day.
Can I
sometimes.
just ask you a question then? Do you reckon that's why the likes of Vitali didn't really see success with Tommy and Madcat when they were on the?
Well, it's even the same with Millennium, with you,
Yeah,
Marky.
yeah, exactly.
You and Jake and Mello and Carnage. My memory's amazing.
As much as like these players, like Melo is better than a lot of the players I've played with, there was like minor little things in terms of communication, misunderstandings of certain situations, just due to not being able to have in-depth conversations with them in regards to how to sort of handle a certain situation in game. So it really is hard to sort of say how we're going to bridge that gap, but really it just comes down to, just like Joe said, doing what we can. I do feel like we can get that gap smaller, but it comes down to those things: playing against the best teams in Europe more regularly with better competition, and yeah, that's what it comes down to.
Anyone else got any more thoughts on that, or is it just me to kind of like ramble on for another 20-30 minutes?
Joel, you have anything to say?
No.
Okay, to be honest, it's kind of hard to say, because obviously you're only going to be as good as the people who you play against. So Marky kind of mentioned it earlier when we was talking about the league, is how in a Gfinity Cup he might only be playing 2 or 3 decent teams, and that's towards the latter stages, the finals, the semis, and the quarters. So obviously you're only going to be getting about 2 hours, 3 hours worth of solid practice, and then you're basically just shooting bots. So it's like, I just called like half the community bots, I know, but
you did. That's not going down
but
well.
You know, like,
sitting there
basically,
like,
his Twitter's in the description.
There's an applicant
it is like, obviously
process
you're
there
only as
down
good as the people
below.
you practice against. So, like the fact that we're having regular practicing against the top teams in the Premiership, that's going to help bridge the gap. But again, until you have these European teams playing against the American teams regularly in tournaments, well, we're not going to see, because we're not going to see a random island in the Atlantic what's just like going to host like a tournament. It's not going to happen. It's like the connection is always going to be an issue. So unless there's like some multi-continental like league, what's never going to happen. That's not. It's going to be hard to kind of bridge the gap.
My like basic understanding of science, I don't think internet's ever going to be as powerful enough to allow us to like compete against US
how
people online.
awful UK internet is.
Right. I'm pretty sure like it's not physically possible to have like internet that good. But going back to what you said a minute ago, Rage, which you said that all the players are bots.
No, we don't talk about that again.
I'd like to return to that comment.
Okay.
Bye, Rage. Nice knowing
you. So, guys, if you want to tweet him, I believe his Twitter is @irage_.
I think you should tweet out yourself,
Got it
Marky.
wrong, Marky.
It's irage. Okay.
Got it wrong.
No way.
No underscore. Is it just irage?
_irage.
It's Tommy_esports.
I'm a nice guy. I did not say that half the community or all the community, bar the 5% at the top, were bots.
Here we go.
I also heard irage.
Oh no.
Irage.
And no, he's not Benson in the picture.
Sorry, guys. I also forgot to mention. See, when we were on that break a minute ago, irage also said that he thinks optics suck as well. So tweet him hate for that as well.
Oh, Rage.
He was flipping the bird to the green wall.
Said he hates nade shot.
Okay,
Done nothing for the Call of Duty scene.
Take over the show just to keep the
This
show
just took a
rolling.
dark end. This has. Obviously, I want to say about
Sorry,
gaming.
my fault.
TheSTiKSLove, TheSTiKSLive. And yeah, looks like that's probably going to be towards the end of the show, unless anyone else wants to talk about anything else. Try and discredit my name even more. No? Okay,
I
that's
don't really
good.
have anything to say, to be honest.
So thankfully, the fact that you two have both been on the show multiple times means that you know how we usually end the show. So you have like 1 minute, 2 minutes. You can have another 5-10 minutes if you want to tell us about your life story, just to kind of like close off the show. And before we get into this, we actually have a little bit of an announcement. Kingdom Soldier tweeted it. So if you're not on Twitter and you're watching the show, tomorrow, 5 p.m. EST. Well, I'm not very good at my time zones, so that'll probably be around 11ish GMT. We're going to actually have 1v1, 10, Marky knows, 10 o'clock GMT, and then 5 p.m. EST. I'm sure you can do all the maths for all your time zones, whatever relevance to you. But there'll be 1v1, Kingdom Soldier versus someone very special, Gandhi. He's back. He's back for the 1v1, so make sure you tune in for that. It's going to be a very good episode. And yeah, we're going to give you like a minute, 2 minutes to say thank yous, your shout outs to your sponsors and stuff. So we'll go Joel, Marky, Tommy, and then myself. Off we go.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just want to dedicate my little section, if you like, just to the people in XL Esports. I have an incredibly good team around me, not just the playing talent who, you know, we've got some great players in COD and FIFA, but just the staff behind the scenes. They're all essentially volunteers. They give us hours and hours of their time, and I really am grateful. So shout out to all of you guys, and also to all the people behind the scenes in other organizations and working for, you know, big event organizers and stuff that have been kind of helping us out. I don't want to name names, but they know who they are, even some pro players. So just thank you. He's not one of them, wherever he is. But no, genuinely thank you, and keep supporting XL.
Marky.
Is it my turn? Okay. I want to give a massive shout out to Epsilon, the guys behind the scenes, Greg, Neil, and APOC for making it all possible to become a part of Epsilon Esports. It's honestly an honour. So massive shout out to those guys. Honestly, Gfinity also for running the Pro League. It's something that I've been banging on about, that I've wanted for absolutely ages. So thanks for that. That's all I'm going to say. And yeah, just if you want to buy one of these ones. These bad boys.
Mute him.
Well,
Quick. Control,
5% off. You can use STiKS, but if you want to, you can also use MarkyB.
Use both.
Well, I mean,
Use both.
We actually just got notified by Scuff that we'll be offering a 5.1% discount. So you can't hang with the big good boys. So I'm afraid, Marky, you've been outbidded. But no, thank you guys as always for watching. It wasn't really mentioned, but we actually hit 500 followers during the show. So massive thank you to everyone that's kind of supported us in this transition over from Twitch to MLG. It's you know, big move, and we're happy that most of the guys that obviously come in every stream have followed us over. A massive thank you to Joel and MarkyB. I think you've both been on about 3 times. I mean, if you look at me and Alex, there's something we're missing, and it's the pro beard. So we obviously needed to include more beard in our life. So a massive thank you to both of you for coming on. I know Marky was a bit last minute, but we appreciate you delegating your time to us. And we'll see you guys next week. I don't know what we're talking about, but we'll see you guys next week.
The guest, I believe, is pretty much 98% confirmed.
Yeah, I think we know roughly. It's going to be a
very good guest, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Whoa. It is going to be a big one. It is. You'll like it, I'm sure.
It's going to be crazy.
I'm typing it in the chat now, Marky. You would love it. But basically, we're now going to be moving on, and check out the code down below. Everyone's laughing for whatever reason. Check down the codes down below for Scuff and for Gamma, because they're both great things. And yeah, just kind of want to say thank you for everyone for on the show. Thank you for Tommy for putting up with me. Thank you for Goalie for getting up, because it's like, it's America, and like that's early.
Yeah, it's early for Goalie.
Joel and Marky, as always, it's been a pleasure having you on. There's a reason why you're on the show. I think you're on the show. You two are like the joint first appearing like guests, and there's a reason why that is. We love you. You're good on the show. So yeah, thank you, guys. We'll see you tomorrow on the 1v1. So bye.
Bye.
Bye. Goodbye.